Imagine being so rich that when you go on a trip, you accidentally crash the economy of an entire country. Not a billionaire, not even a trillionaire. We're talking about a man whose wealth was so vast that historians still struggle to calculate it, and yet most people have never even heard his name. This is the untold story of Mansa Musa, the forgotten emperor of Africa, and the richest human being in all of recorded history. In the 14th century, while Europe was sinking into the darkness of the Middle Ages, Africa was rising in gold, knowledge, and power. At the heart of West Africa, there existed a kingdom so wealthy, so advanced, that travelers from across the world wrote about it in awe. That kingdom was Mali, and at its peak, one man ruled it all. Musa Wash of Mali, or as history remembers him, Mansa Musa. But who was he? Where did his wealth come from? And how did one man, from a land most maps ignored, become the wealthiest figure the world has ever known? Let's begin at the start. Who was Mansa Musa? Mansa Musa was born around the year 1280, not into royalty, but into the royal bloodline of Mali's ruling Keita dynasty. His older brother, Abu Bakr II, was the emperor before him. But here's where things get strange. Abu Bakr wasn't content with ruling land. He was obsessed with discovering what lay beyond the Atlantic Ocean. So in one of history's boldest adventures, he gathered hundreds of ships, filled them with people, supplies, and gold. And then he sailed west, never to return. That's when Musa, still a relatively unknown noble, was chosen to become the next emperor. It was a decision that would change not just Africa, but the entire world. The Empire of Gold. When Musa became emperor in 1312, Mali was already rich, but under his leadership, it became unimaginably wealthy. Why? One word: gold. Mali sat on top of the largest gold reserves in the world. Historians estimate that during the 14th century, over half of the world's gold supply came from West Africa. And Mansa Musa controlled it all. But his empire wasn't just rich in resources. It was rich in culture, education, trade, and spirituality. Mali's cities, especially Timbuktu, became thriving centers of Islamic learning, architecture, and art. And then came the moment that would make Mansa Musa famous across continents. Chapter 3: The Pilgrimage That Shook the World. In the year 1324, Mansa Musa did something no African ruler had ever done on this scale. He decided to go on the Islamic Hajj, the holy pilgrimage to Mecca. But Musa didn't just take a few camels and guards. He took an entire army of wealth. Reports say he traveled with 60,000 people, including officials, soldiers, entertainers, and servants. 12,000 slaves, each carrying gold bars, 100 camels, each carrying up to 300 pounds of gold. Musicians, heralds, and food supplies for the entire caravan. It was a moving kingdom, a golden parade across the Sahara. And when he reached Cairo, the capital of Egypt, the world would never forget what happened next. What did Mansa Musa do in Cairo that shocked the entire Middle East? How did his generosity accidentally cause an economic disaster? And why did his name vanish from the pages of modern textbooks? We'll answer all of that. The Gold Storm in Cairo. When Mansa Musa arrived in Cairo, the Egyptian capital, the locals had never seen anything like it. The streets filled with his royal caravan. People watched in disbelief as gold was handed out like candy. Musa wasn't just rich. He was generous beyond imagination. He gave gold to the poor, to merchants, to city officials and religious leaders. He built mosques, funded schools, and offered massive gifts wherever he went. It was a gesture of faith, respect, and power. But it came with an unexpected side effect. Too much gold in one place caused the value of gold to collapse. Prices soared, markets struggled, and the economy of Egypt was shaken for over a decade. Historians say it's the only time in recorded history that one man single-handedly caused inflation across an entire region. This wasn't just a visit. This was a statement to the world. Africa was powerful, and Mansa Musa was its emperor. Building a legacy back home. When Musa returned to Mali, he didn't come back empty-handed. He brought back scholars, architects, teachers, and artists from across the Islamic world. He used his wealth not just to build monuments, but to build minds. He turned Timbuktu into one of the most advanced centers of learning on Earth. He built the legendary Sankore University, where students studied law, astronomy, mathematics, medicine, and theology. At its peak, Timbuktu housed over 700,000 manuscripts, more than most European cities at the time. This was a golden age of African science and scholarship. He also funded the construction of hundreds of mosques, including the famous Jingareber Mosque, which still stands today after more than 700 years. Mansa Musa understood that true wealth wasn't just in gold, it was in knowledge, faith, and legacy. Chapter 6. So how rich was he? Really, let's talk numbers. Modern economists have tried to estimate Mansa Musa's wealth. According to some reports, his fortune would be worth over $400 billion today, more than Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Bill Gates combined. But truthfully, his wealth was so vast it's impossible to calculate. Why? Because he didn't just own money. He controlled an entire region's natural resources: gold, salt, trade routes, and more. No one alive has ever had that level of direct control over wealth, and yet his name is barely mentioned in most schools. Why he was erased from history. So why don't we hear about him? Part of the reason is geography. European historians, especially during colonization, focused on European narratives. Africa's kingdoms were dismissed, ignored, or buried. The story of Mansa Musa didn't fit into the idea that Africa was uncivilized, and so his achievements were erased or downplayed for centuries. But the truth has a way of rising again. And today, as scholars uncover ancient African manuscripts, architecture, and records, Mansa Musa's story is finally being told. Not as a myth, but as fact. Mansa Musa wasn't just the richest man in history. He was a visionary, a builder, a teacher, and a leader who used his wealth to uplift an entire civilization. His story reminds us that greatness isn't limited by geography or race, that history is bigger than what we've been told, and that the richest stories are often the ones we've never heard. If this story inspired you, share it. Let the world know that Africa was not silent, it was golden. And don't forget to subscribe to History Reborn, where the past comes alive.